Hello, I'm taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo published game. Welcome to the next episode. The next game is Game & Watch Judge. We're back from our brief break from the Game & Watch games with more Game & Watch. This one was released in October of 1980 and was the last game in the Game & Watch Silver series. This one was a little different than its predecessors in that it featured a multiplayer mode for Game Mode B. This game is featured in Smash Bros. As Mr. Game & Watch's infamous side special. The concept of higher numbers being more valuable is taken straight from the game, as we'll soon see. In this game, there are 4 main buttons, although you only have to use 2 of them in the single-player mode. The top 2 buttons are for hitting, and the bottom 2 are for fleeing. In the multiplayer mode, each player controls one side and has their own hit button and flee button. The rules of this game are pretty simple. Each player holds up a random number from 1 to 9 above their head. If the number above your head is higher than your opponent's number, then you press the hit button. If your number is lower, you want to press the flee button. If the number is a tie, you can press either, but it is more beneficial to press the hit button since it gets you more points. So, what happens if you both press the correct button? You see, this game is all about reaction time. Whoever presses the correct button first gets the point. You can't just mash either, because if you press the wrong button, your opponent gets the points regardless. You need to wait for the numbers to show, evaluate both your number and your opponent's number, then pick the right option. The higher your number is, the more likely you will be swinging. But even at an 8, a hit is not guaranteed to be the correct response. However, if you get a 9, you will always want to press the hit button, since there's nothing greater than it. You can safely always dodge if your number is 1 too, although you may miss out on a hit if you both roll a 1. The objective is to get 99 points before your opponent does. To start, I chose Game Mode A. This pits you off against the CPU. I'm not totally sure how they determine how fast of a reaction time the CPU has, but it seems to include some level of randomness as they sometimes seem to respond faster than others. On my first run, I was dominating the CPU. Or so I thought. At around 50 to 0, I started to realize that the CPU seemed incredibly stupid. It kept swinging and dodging when it wasn't supposed to. And then I realized the problem. In Game Mode A, the human player controls the character on the right, not the player on the left. I had been looking at the wrong side the whole time. After realizing how much of a fool I'd made of myself, I restarted the game. There was no reason to try and salvage this one. This time, things went much closer to what I expected. I usually had the lead from here on out, although the CPU was usually pretty close behind. Sometimes his reaction times seemed crazy good, and it made me wonder if the CPU has some kind of rubber banding programmed into his AI. It was a pretty close game, but I won out in the end, 99 to 92. As I said before, Game Mode B was a multiplayer-only mode, so I once again brought my roommate Dr. Bob to play this mode with me. At this point, I had already beaten the CPU, so I didn't think winning against Dr. Bob was totally necessary, but I still wanted to try my best. For this mode, I decided to be player 2 and play on the left, since I sat on the left side of the screen. Initially, the game was pretty neck and neck, but at around 30 points, Dr. Bob started to slip ahead. He pretty much had the lead up until he had around 92 points, and I was 13 points behind at 79. Somehow, though, I started to turn things around, and I managed to tie it back up. When we were both one hit away at 97 to 97, I pulled through and won the final match, earning me the sweet victory. Somehow, I did it. This mode was really funny, and it cracked me up every time one of us got too anxious and did the wrong option out of a state of panic. With the CPU down and both game modes completed, I was done with the game. On to the review. I thought this one was pretty fun. It's really simple, but the multiplayer mode was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the way it combined reaction times with quick thinking. The CPU mode wasn't quite as interesting, but it still worked well enough. There wasn't any sort of high score to achieve with this one, so for some people, it may not provide as much longevity as some of the other Game & Watch games. In the end, I gave the game a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also, leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it'll help the channel grow and motivate me to continue this series. I hope I'll see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.